Welcome to Your Big Career Move, where your host, Yeshim Nicholson, chats to people about their big career moves, uncovers their motivations, their fears, their successes, and everything in between. Be inspired by their stories, and if you're thinking of making your own big career move, head over to yescareercoaching.com. If you enjoy this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Welcome back to another episode of Your Big Career Move. I'm Yeshim Nicholson, and today I'm speaking to Sarah Green, who I've never met in person, but we've had a good long chat on the phone, and I'm really happy that she agreed to be on this podcast because she's really inspiring. She's got a brilliant story to tell, and I think you'll really enjoy it too. So thanks so much, Sarah, for being here today and for taking the time out of your, I know what is a very busy schedule. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me.
So if we can, what I tend to do is just go straight into what you were doing before you made your big career move, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, of course. So for anyone that needs a little bit of background of what I actually do, I am a project management consultant and I specialize in tech projects. So implementing software and onboarding clients into software, particularly in retail, logistics and supply chain. Mm-hmm. And the reason that that's important is that is not what I was doing before. So I think that's probably quite a pertinent point to make, that you can pivot quite radically. Mm-hmm. So prior to me moving into my own consultancy business, my background is not in tech whatsoever, nothing. I don't have a GCSE in IT. I have got no A-levels in anything science related. I am all about arts related subjects, performing arts, history, literature, nothing to do with science, nothing to do with STEM or anything like that. So after a couple of jobs out of uni, I ended up working for a larger consultancy firm, not in a project management role per se, but I sort of managed projects. Mm-hmm. So my official job title was things like account manager or even business development manager, which didn't really quite reflect what I was actually doing. So what I was doing was taking customers through essentially a journey of doing audit projects at that time. So getting their data, understanding what their problems were, getting our IT people to create applications to help our auditors audit that data and do things with it and produce, exciting reports for the customer and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I'd done that for about 10 years, maybe a little bit more. And then COVID hit. And I feel like everyone's story in the world at the moment is, I was doing this thing and then COVID. Yeah. And unfortunately, I'm not going to break the mold on that one. I'm exactly the same. So when COVID hit, my entire department was furloughed. So the only person who remained just to man the fort was me. Mm-hmm. So I'd been in that business for 10 years and I could pretty much sort of cover all bases. But the output, if you like, of that was that at the end of lockdown, at the end of all the COVID restrictions, there was a restructuring done within the business and the entire department, myself included, were made redundant. Mm-hmm. And so it was at that point where I had a bit of a choice to make, because I worked in a very niche industry doing these audit projects. So I had the choice of either go to work for a competitor or do something else.
What's happening here emotionally for you when you've just found out you've been made redundant from a job you've been doing for a decade?
Yeah, so it was really mixed feelings. Mm-hmm. So I had loved that job very, very much, but there'd been a change in senior management and the direction the business was taking was not one that aligned with my values. Mm-hmm. It had been a very, very value-driven organization and it moved away from that. So over the 2-ish years of lockdown, I'd become increasingly sort of fed up and thinking, this is not the way I want to do things. Mm-hmm. So when I was made redundant, it was partly, oh my God, what am I going to do? Fear response, and partly, oh my God, what am I going to do? Exciting opportunities. So it was that battle of, am I more excited today or am I more terrified today? Mm-hmm. Let's work through this. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I decided to take a couple of contract roles. So essentially being a consultant to going for fixed term contracts or fixed project length contracts.
Yeah. And was that you going out specifically looking for that, or did they kind of land on your lap while you were working out what you were going to do?
The first one landed on my lap because it was with a competitor. So as soon as they knew that I was available, being a woman in my industry has always made me a minority, so I stand out. And I think that's very similar if you work in any sort of finance, data, software, you're going to stand out immediately if you're a girl.
Yeah.
And so as soon
Which can be a good and a bad thing, right?
It is a
double-edged sword.
Much a double-edged sword. You're totally right. It means that sometimes, I can be the star of the show, and sometimes I'm really struggling to just find someone to relate to me and to relate to the struggles it is to be a woman in those industries. But so I was offered a contract super quickly as soon as I was made redundant. So I don't think I had 1 full month of not working.
Was that a no-brainer for you at that point to take that, or were you still like, contracting obviously isn't as secure as having a full-time job, permanent job?
Yeah. So at first, I think it was partly the fear that got the best of me, and thought, if I take a fixed term contract for now, it's 3 months for me to make my mind up and see how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And so because I'd been in consultancy for the old firm that I'd worked for, parachuting into a client organization, doing a piece of work and then moving on wasn't an unknown to me. I was comfortable with that. I was just never done it as quickly as 3 months before. So when that opportunity came up, I thought, right, well, I'm going to take this. It's going to see me through for the next 3 months, and then I'll see how I feel.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what I did. So at the end of that 3-month period, I knew that I was confident enough that I could keep doing this, and that if more contracts came in, I could either get them extended if it was a bigger project, or I'd be confident in finding more clients and things like that. And it was at that point that I started to think, well, maybe I could actually scale this and turn this into a consultancy like the one I've just left, but one that's me, one that's got the values at the heart of it, rather than, being a little bit more of the typical corporate world that was what I didn't really like.
Yeah. So it was sort of accidental on purpose. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, I think that's a fair summary. Yeah, accidentally on purpose. And then I just kind of winged it a little bit and then thought, actually, I can fly.
Yeah, this is awesome. And I mean, you're running a really successful business now. I don't mean to embarrass you, but I think from what I've heard and what you've told me, you seem to be doing extremely well, which must be so exciting, because I think one thing I want to talk to you about is the money side of things, because
that's fine.
I talk to a lot of people where the number one barrier to them leaving their job that they're not enjoying or whatever is the money, and it's really taboo and people hate talking about it, and it's a really emotive subject. So actually I'm really happy to tell your story, or help you tell your story, that actually, well, from our very brief conversation, you're doing better financially than you were before.
Yeah. So I think I've got kind of a 2 sides to this story, which is part of the thing that kept me in the job that I was really unhappy with were the golden handcuffs. I was pretty well paid, and I'm the main wage earner in our family by a significant margin. So me leaving was quite a big deal. And so that was the thing that really made me hesitate. And I wasn't sure how I would replicate that anywhere else, because I was in this niche industry. I was very sought after. And then, having now moved into my own consultancy world, and I'm able to bring my knowledge and experience and share that with my corporate clients who I work with, I've turned that into a 6-figure business within a year, which at the time of me leaving my previous job was just unthinkable. That was an insane amount of money. And it's that's enabled me to be able to scale and actually start bringing employees into my business, and to start giving opportunities to other people that want to change their careers.
What is it about you that has led to this success of yours? What do you think? What's the skill or the mindset or the knowledge that you've got?
I think I always know that I can back myself. I always know that I can back myself, and I can rely on myself to do something and get something done and do it well. Even if I don't know how, that's not the important thing. You can find out how, you can learn, you can speak to people who do know how, but believing in your heart that you can do it and believing in yourself that you've got the capacity for it, I think that will take you a really, really long way.
Where does the self-belief come from? I mean, it's so lovely to hear. And a lot of people lack this self-belief. Which stone did you look under to find it?
Yeah, do you know what? Actually, we could do a whole other podcast on my sad rags to riches story of how I got here, because it's just way too long. But
give us a snapshot.
Yeah, that I can tell you that at my lowest point, I was so poor, I had my electricity cut off. My husband, who's a part-time postman, had to put fuel in my car so I could get to work. And I have no wedding photos because I had such poor self-image that I have just hated every single wedding photo that I have. So I've gone from being super, super low to being something completely different. And I always believed in my actual abilities to deliver, but I didn't believe in myself very much, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. But I knew that I always got good results. When I was at school, I got good results in tests, but I never believed I was that good on the inside. And so it's through a process of, I've worked with some amazing coaches, numerous different coaches over the years for different things, which started back in my corporate career as well. I didn't only just do that when I became an entrepreneur. I had coaching when I moved into management, and that was incredibly helpful. So
is that something that you sought out for yourself, or did the company provide?
The company provided the initial coaching, and then that sort of really unlocked an interest in it in me. Right. So then I started devouring sort of self-coaching publications, audiobooks. I'm a huge fan of audiobooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to be able to listen and do something else at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, started sort of investing in that sort of side of it myself. And then as I've moved into running my own consultancy firm, then I've started investing in actually getting business coaching and mindset coaching and things like that as well. Just because, you know, every day something will happen where you might have a bit of a wobble, and you just need someone to say to you, you know, you've got this, you can do this.
You've got this. Yeah.
I think another huge part of it as well, which again, there's a whole other episode of a podcast in here as well, is the effect of finding the gym and physical fitness. That gave me an insane amount of confidence compared to where I was. I'd never done anything like that until I was in my 30s. I was extremely unfit. I couldn't run a bath. But that gives you an unbelievable amount of confidence, and also it connects you with a really high vibe community of people who are trying to improve themselves if you find the right gym. So that's another really good way that I've managed to kind of invest in myself. Amazing. And just give myself that inner confidence that, you know, I can find a way. I'm not sure how, but I know I can find my way through this.
Yeah. And I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Is this newfound self-belief, is it something that, you know, you've now got it and that's it for the rest of your life, or is it something that you feel you need to be working on constantly?
No, it requires constant work, because there's always a next level. There's always something else you want to achieve, something else you want to do, and you think, oh, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if that's a step too far. And then you have to sort of go back and think, why? Somebody else has done it. Yeah. There's no reason why I can't be the next person. Yeah. And then you think, oh, but somebody that grew up on a council estate, they can't do that. And you think, well, why? Some people are famous that grew up on a council estate, you know. And so you just have to, every time that limiting belief pops up, just ask it why. Yeah. And just say, no, I'm sorry, not today. I've got places I need to be and things I need to do, and I'm not going to let you stop me.
So you mentioned that you grew up on a council estate. Yeah. And I know we've talked before today about the fact that you did have people in your life that were, I guess, well-intentioned, absolutely, but trying to make sure you would know your place in the world and that you would stay small and please don't have big ambitions. And so I'm curious to know, now that you have, you know, and I mean, I have no doubt that you have this ridiculously amazing future ahead of you, but you've already achieved so much more than you yourself, your parents, your peers expected of you. How are they reacting now to your success?
I think they're a bit confused by it, to be honest. I really think they are a bit confused because they can't understand that it's not a proper job. Because I've
Right.
made a job, I am making money out of, making a job and going and helping people, and I haven't gone to somebody else to employ me.
Yeah.
And I think that is baffling to them. I think it is really baffling. My dad, who's like one of the biggest influences in my life in terms of career, worked for the public sector his entire life because it was a very secure, stable job to work in the public sector. It had a great pension and things like that. And so it almost seems like I'm stealing a living because I'm making money without a job, if that makes sense.
Magic, black magic.
Yeah, it is. It's magic.
And did you have people that were kind of, when you said, oh, I'm going to set up my own consultancy, did you have people that were saying, well, that's a really crazy idea, just get yourself another job and do what you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It was my family more than anything, and it wasn't because of them being unsupportive at all. It's because they want to protect you. That's everyone who listens to this will have someone in their life, maybe every person in their family, saying, oh, but what if this happens? And what if that happens? What if you can't pay the bills? But the flip side of that is, well, what if I become a millionaire?
Yeah.
What if I set the world on fire? What if I change the course of humanity forever?
Yeah.
You can't just live in a small, fearful life forever. You've got to just take the big leap and do something amazing. If you think that there's something out there that you want to do, that you want to achieve, no one's going to achieve it for you. You've got to go for it. You've got to live that life yourself.
Definitely. And can we talk about timing? Because obviously you were made redundant.
Yeah.
And so if you hadn't been made redundant, would you still be in that job, do you think? Was the timing just right for you? Do you wish you'd done it sooner?
Yeah, I think the timing was just right for me because I needed to find the confidence, and I'd struggled with it so much up until then, thinking that I needed to be validated by other people and thinking I needed other people to succeed rather than me doing it by myself. So I think for me, everything that I built and learned and developed in myself up until that point, I needed to do.
Yeah.
So if you can do that now, then do it, because you're going to take yourself to a position where you've got that inner belief and you've got the confidence to think, no, now is my time. So I do think it was the right time for me, and I don't kind of regret doing it sooner, but I'm very glad I didn't wait any longer.
Is there anything that you would change if you could go back in time?
I think I would just go back and give myself the belief specific to being able to be that self-reliant person who can make things happen. I was kind of expecting this question because I've been asked it a few times recently, and I'm massively into my music. It's a massive part of who I am, and it made me think of one of my all-time heroes, Gwen Stefani. When she went solo, she had a song called What Are You Waiting For? And if you actually listen to the lyrics of that song, it's absolutely beautiful. She's saying that she's frightened because she's had so much success with No Doubt, her amazing band from the 90s. And she said, life is short, you're capable. What are you waiting for? And that's what I would tell everyone. That's what everyone should know. And just listen to Gwen and she'll help you.
She's written it specifically for you.
She has. That can be your theme tune. Just put it on your headphones and listen to that, and Gwen will get you through.
Love it. Top advice there. What else have you learned about yourself in this journey?
I think learning that I have a tendency to try to do everything, and I always have, and I really like to know exactly what's going on with everything all the time, which is a typical project manager thing to do. But that doesn't mean you have to do the doing. Certainly when you're managing a project, you don't do the doing. So when you're managing your consultancy firm that does project management, you shouldn't be doing all the doing either. So things like trying to set up Office 365 by myself, that was a mistake. Don't do that. Outsource it. It's just, anyone that's thinking about it now, unless you're a technician, don't do it. It's a nightmare. So I've definitely learned that my tendency to take things on myself holds me back. And so more and more I am outsourcing, I am delegating. Anything that I'm not excellent at, I will be trying my best to not be doing. to the point where today I actually outsourced someone to create me a branded PowerPoint deck so I don't have to do it. I could do that, but it'd probably take me ages and it'd look a bit rubbish. Where my graphic designer who designed my website could do it in about 15 minutes and it'd look wonderful.
Yeah.
So rather than me slave over that for half a day, it's way more productive, more efficient, and ultimately I'm doing more of the money making stuff if I give that to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. It's finding the right people to do it though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I used to have this argument with my husband all the time that if you buy cheap, you buy twice.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same with, outsourcing a service. You might think it's expensive to pay for an expert, but try paying for an amateur and you'll see how expensive it really is.
So true.
So definitely, if you're looking at things like getting websites built or anything that requires a level of expertise, get experts. Don't get your mate to do it. It's going to come back and bite you.
I love that. And so now that you have this business that you've created, what do you love most about your day-to-day?
That is the easiest question in the world to answer. My customers.
Yeah.
I love them. And my customers are companies. My customers are big companies. They're enterprise level global businesses, but in those companies are human people. And they come to me because they've got a project or projects that are going off the rails, that things are going wrong, they've got difficult stakeholders, they've got unrealistic deadlines, and they need help. They are struggling and they need help. And that is why I got into project management. It's not because I love tech. I'm quite interested in it as a user, but I love to help people. Anyone can be a project manager, really. It's not rocket science. But if you love to help people, it drives you through the days when it is challenging and it is stressful, because you can see how much of a weight you've taken off your customers' shoulders just to get that piece of work delivered. Everyone's in one piece. People have not resigned, the business still exists. So yeah, doing it for my customers is the best reward ever.
And like you say, the technology is just the tool, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm really passionate about the sort of subject of women in tech, because I think people think you need to be a techie to work in tech, and you definitely do not need to be a techie. I'm not a techie. I don't do the doing. I just do the organizing. So you can work with technology, but be a servant leader like myself, who gets things done for the customer without needing to actually get your hands in writing any code or anything like that. So yeah, the technology is just, the vehicle to get them from A to B, but it needs a person to organize actually delivering that. And that's, where you get someone like me to come in.
Yeah. And you do it so well.
I try my best.
What does success look like to you now? And has it changed over the years?
Yeah. So success to me when I was in a corporate career used to just be to just never stop climbing. Climb the ladder until you can climb no more, and find a different company and climb their ladder until you can climb. And when you think about that, that's a little depressing. So you're just climbing and climbing forever. So yeah, my view of it's quite different now. I think to me now, my definition of success is to be able to help as many people as possible. So helping my clients and the businesses who come to me for support with their project management means that I can give back in other ways. It means that I can do talks for women in tech. I can go out and inspire a future generation of project managers or people who want to change career, who think, oh, how would you get into tech when you've got a background in English literature, performing arts and history? Well, look at me. It worked for me. It was fine. So it gives me the opportunity to use my talents to make a difference in the world. And I think that to me is the best possible measure of success that I could have, really.
Yeah. And I think you're 100% right. I think being able to use your strengths in a way that makes you feel good and to make a difference in people's lives is, I don't know what else you could ask for, really.
Yeah, I think that's it for me now. Leaving a legacy is really important to me. I don't want to depart this earth and leave nothing behind. I want to leave a mark, whatever that may be. And so I think actually building the runway to leaving that legacy is super important to me.
Sarah, I've really loved hearing your story. I think it's really inspiring, and I do hope that people are listening to this and realize that they can make a career change, and it might feel scary, but it's totally doable. And I'm also hoping that there might be some women listening to this who might now consider tech as an option,
Yeah.
a career option. We live in a world where tech is so integral to absolutely every aspect of our lives now. There's no getting away from it. So I just think from both points of view, sharing your story has been really fabulous. Thank you so much. If anybody would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. So you can either go to my LinkedIn page, so you can search for me personally, so it's Sarah Green, or you can look for my company, which is Pyramid Coaching and Consultancy Limited. Again, on LinkedIn, or you can look for our website and you can message me directly from there.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
Take care.
If you know someone who would enjoy this podcast, do share it with them and subscribe now so you never miss an episode.